Okay, let's dive into something kind of unexpected in the legal world. We're looking at how your education level, like how much schooling or intelligence you have, actually affects your criminal liability.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It can either lessen your sentence or, well, make it worse.
Right, so it can be mitigating or aggravating.
Exactly. And the law isn't really looking at your diploma. It's more about assessing how your education or lack of it impacts your awareness, your understanding that what you did was wrong.
Okay, so what's the baseline?
The basic rule is this. Generally, low instruction, maybe not finishing school, that's seen as mitigating. It can lessen the penalty.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
High instruction, being highly educated, that only becomes aggravating, makes things worse if you actually use your specific learning or skills while committing the crime.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's unpack the first part, the low instruction side. How low is low exactly? It's not like dropping out of high school automatically gets you off easier, right?
No, definitely not. The sources are pretty clear on this. To claim mitigation for lack of instruction, you actually have to prove two things.
Two things. Okay.
One, yes, illiteracy or not finishing school. But second, and crucially, you also need to show a real lack of sufficient intelligence. You need both.
Ah, so it's not just about formal schooling, it's about overall comprehension too.
Precisely. And this is where you see the courts drawing some really fine lines. For example, there are rulings saying that if a defendant even attended the first grade, well, that person generally isn't considered lacking instruction.
Wow, just first grade, that seems like a very low bar.
It is. But that little bit of schooling has been seen as enough in some cases.
Okay, but then the law throws us a bit of a curveball
Right.
because someone might be able to, say, sign their name,
Right. They have that basic literacy.
but they could still be considered, what was the phrase, densely ignorant.
Yes, densely ignorant and of low intelligence. If they genuinely don't grasp the moral weight of their actions, even if they can sign a paper, they might still get that mitigating circumstance.
No, it really comes down to that moral awareness, not just ticking a box for literacy.
Exactly. But, and this is important, the defense team has to prove this ignorance directly.
How so?
Well, they need to show it positively and directly. You can't just imply it like, oh, this person comes from a poor background, so they must be ignorant. That doesn't fly. It needs concrete proof.
Okay, that burden of proof makes sense. Now, even with all this focus on awareness and intelligence, there are situations where the law basically says, nope, ignorance is no excuse here.
Right, that's right. There are certain types of crimes where lack of instruction just isn't considered mitigating at all.
Why is that?
Because these are considered crimes forbidden by what's often called natural law. Things everyone everywhere is just expected to know are wrong. Instinctively wrong.
Like what? What falls into that category?
The big ones are crimes against property. Think theft, robbery, arson. Also estafa, which is like fraud or swindling.
Okay. And the thinking is?
The thinking, going back to some foundational cases, is that basically no one, no matter how uneducated, is so ignorant they don't know stealing or robbing someone is wrong. It's just fundamentally understood.
That seems intuitive. What about historical exceptions? I remember reading something about cultural minorities.
Ah, yes. Historically, there were some allowances made, sometimes for individuals from very isolated communities or specific cultural minorities, suggesting maybe their norms were different.
But that's changed.
Largely, yes. Modern courts tend to reject that exception now. The reasoning is that, with communication and society advancing, being part of a minority group doesn't automatically mean you're living in some uncivilized state unaware of basic morality.
Right. Society's interconnectedness plays a role.
Definitely. And the same principle applies to crimes against chastity, like rape. The law is very clear. No amount of ignorance excuses not knowing that's wrong.
Okay, so that covers when ignorance doesn't help.
Hmm.
What about the flip side? High education. When does being smart or well-educated become a liability, an aggravating factor?
Well, like we touched on earlier, it only aggravates the penalty if the person deliberately uses their specific knowledge or skills to commit the crime, or sometimes to help them get away with it, avoid detection.
So just being, say, a doctor who commits a crime isn't automatically worse?
Not necessarily. It depends on the crime and how it was committed. There's a case where a lawyer committed physical injuries, basically got into a fight.
Okay.
Their law degree wasn't considered aggravating in that instance. Why? Because they didn't use any legal knowledge or skills to commit the assault. It was just a common crime committed by a lawyer not using their lawyering skills.
Got it. So what would be an example where it aggravates?
Think about a doctor using their specialized medical knowledge. Maybe they prepare a very specific poison, something designed to be hard to trace, something only their training would allow them to concoct effectively.
Ah, okay. They're directly applying their expertise to the criminal act.
Exactly. That's using your high instruction to commit the crime. Or imagine a lawyer who uses their deep understanding of contracts and legal loopholes to pull off a really complex fraud, like estafa.
They're weaponizing their education, essentially.
That's a good way to put it. They're abusing their learning. That crosses the line into aggravation.
So wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you listening out there? It seems the law isn't just counting diplomas or degrees.
Not at all. It boils down to the offender's actual moral and intellectual awareness in relation to the specific crime. We saw that for mitigation, it's not just about being illiterate. You need that proven lack of sufficient intelligence.
Right. It's a deeper assessment.
Which leads to kind of a final, maybe provocative thought to mull over.
Oh, well.
Well, since mitigation requires proving a lack of intelligence, not just avoiding school, could someone really smart, like genuinely intelligent, deliberately skip formal education just to try and get that mitigation later if they commit a crime?
Interesting question. Could they game the system that way?
It seems unlikely the law would allow it. Because if the core issue is intellectual capacity, the ability to know right from wrong, then simply avoiding a classroom probably wouldn't shield you if you inherently possess that intelligence. Something to think about.